Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Ayo Olufade. I just wanted to talk to you today. I got an inspiration from looking at pecan and walnut. I don't know if you can see, this is pecan. I don't know if you can see it, but just looking at this today, I've never really noticed it until recently. I remember when I was in college, because I was interested in going to medical school. So I took a lot of anatomy class and physiology class. And of course, being a biochemist, you have to take a lot of life science. At any rate, let me ask a question. What does this remind you of? What does it look like to you? Best practices is always good to wait, give my students some opportunity to talk about this and brainstorm and come up with some answers. Let me flip. There you go. To me, this structure reminds me of the brain, right? Doesn't it remind you of the brain? It's really never dawned on me until now. All these years that I've been eating walnut, it really never dawned on me. Look at how convoluted. For the brain surgeons that are in the house, probably, I'm sure you'll have something to say. I know it's not exactly like the brain, but if I was to use a model in science, especially if you use the NGSS, we love to use model. After asking questions, it's very important you identify the problem. It's very important to utilize model. I have to tell my students models is a very powerful tool in solving problems. So why am I bringing this up? Today, I want to talk about a problem. The problem is the zero-sum fallacy in STEAM. Today, I want to talk about a problem which is the zero-sum fallacy in STEAM. And it also deals with a new book because of this inspiration that I'm really working on. It's really tough writing this book. So I don't know how I'm going to accomplish it, but I'm working on it based on my experience as a researcher and a scientist, even though I'm not doing bench science at this point. I'm now an educator in this team, taught not only in the secondary school, but in college and at the same time, adult setting. In my many years of experience, I've noticed certain things. And also, in my experience in the science world, doing research, I've also had some experience. Now I advocate for equity, diversity in STEAM education and career. If you want to consult with me about career in the STEAM, I am available for you to talk with. I advocate for the BIPOC community, the Blacks, the Indigenous, the people of color. I advocate for more of us going into the STEAM education. I often wonder, we leaving money on the table when we don't pursue career in STEAM education, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But I'm more of an advocate for integration, not just be silo. You integrate different disciplines, master different areas, or knowing someone, collaborating with someone in a different field to solve a problem, to identify a problem, to come up with a solution. Never knew that all of my experience in college and in real life will come to bear. Now I can see things from multiple perspectives, multiple dimensions. As you can see, now I'm a podcaster. Never knew in my wildest dream the communication class, the writing in college, the public speaking in college was I'm ever going to use it later on in life. Look at it. I'm using it not only as a teacher, but also as a communicator. I talk with brilliant minds in STEAM and I communicate ideas. I learn about what they do to innovate the BIPOC, our community, my community. So coming back to my walnut and my pecan, I don't know if you can see, it's an inspiration for me. Why? Because it reminds me of a brain. And when you think about a brain, and especially with what I advocate for in areas that I am, whereby I see a lot of unfairness and I see a lot of bias, I feel I have to use the pecan or the walnut as a model to try to make a point about fairness. So I want to frame fairness in a biological, mathematical manner. And that's what I'm truly trying to work on at this point. Frame in those framework. And hopefully this will make sense. Currently, the global conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion, which many people call DEI, is actually stalled because of a major misunderstanding. What do I mean by that? For those that argue against DEI, one of the major criticism is that opportunities are taken away from certain group and then given to another group. Now, for those that support DEI, like me, for example, I have a different argument, and I wanted to add a little bit more to that argument. The reason why I am for DEI, it's not all about taking from one group because I don't see it. And I would like to argue that we should not look at DEI as taking away from one group and giving it to another group. For the marginalized group, especially Blacks and African Americans that have been in this society, there is a history of marginalization. And for that reason, this is why the civil right is so important. This is why DEI is so important. It should not be seen as taking away from one group and giving it to another. It should be seen as there are a lot of talented and skilled people in this community who are part of the United States of America that can contribute to our economy if given an opportunity. And this is the reason why many in the past have worked so tirelessly to make sure that there is civil rights for everyone. And initiatives such as DEI is available not to take away from one group and give it to another, but to try to make sure that those that are talented within a certain group are also given the opportunity to strive. Everybody's striving, every group striving to solve a problem. United States of America continue to sustain its innovation. So back to my point again. Globally, as I've said, the conversation on DEI has actually stalled because some group feels like it's taken away from one group and given to another group. Advocate of DEI view DEI as a civil rights issue. And because it is a civil rights issue, it must not be seen or looked at through a lens of subtraction. So this is what I'm working on. I posit in my new book that fairness does not steal from you. It's like the central nervous system, which look like the almond. I think this is almond, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And this is walnut. Right? This is walnut. Looks like central nervous system. So using this as the central nervous system as a biological metaphor, I'm using the almond and the walnut as central nervous system. And the central nervous system is, I'm going to be using it as a biological metaphor. I want to demonstrate that a healthy system never view the empowerment of its parts lost to the center. Every animal, every living thing has a central nervous system. We know how it works. Because it works perfectly, the central nervous system does not steal, for example, oxygen from the heart to feed the lungs. That doesn't happen, right? It does not steal oxygen from the heart to feed the brain. It is regulating a complex system, but there is a fair distribution that ensure that every part, if everything runs well, is normal and the organism is surviving. So, in the same way, in my book that I'm working on, The Calculus of Resistance, I want to make a case that bias in STEAM, whether it's in education or in the industry, is actually a form of a systemic resistance, right? It is a friction that slows down innovation. And that's not good for the United States of America, to be honest with you. It's not good for our innovation, especially as we're competing against powerful countries such as China or Europe, right? Even some of our friends, it's a competitive world, to be honest with you. We all know that, especially in the age of AI. The United States have done so well, but in order for us to sustain our innovation and to continue to compete, we need everyone. Everyone has to be involved. So by removing this, so I'm arguing structural fairness. We have to come up with a structural fairness where everyone is involved. If you want to restructure DEI, then let's do it. But to just roll it back, whereby certain groups are marginalized, groups that have been marginalized for years, I don't believe that is good for our community, our country. When you make sure that the civil rights is properly administered and DEIs are properly administered, what we end up doing is we increase the total velocity of progress. I love integrated STEAM. You have to integrate, right? You have to know a little bit of every discipline to be able to solve a complex problem. You collaborate with someone that knows what you don't know in order to solve a problem. We are a member of the same country. When America, the United States of America, succeed, we all succeed. But we all need a collective effort to do this. The best is still ahead, to be honest with you. Now we are in the age of AI. A few years from now, everything is going to accelerate. Now we're talking about quantum computing. Imagine where you're able to combine AI and quantum computing. I'm a fan of Star Trek. I often think about the best, like what on Star Trek, literally. So the best is still ahead. Envision America to be on top of the pyramid. But in order for us to do that, we have to collectively be synergized. We all have to work together and not look at the zero-sum fallacy that we see. That is my take. I hope I wasn't rambling. I was just trying to articulate a thought. To my almond that looks like a brain, or like a walnut that looks like a brain, kind of convoluted. We can't do without our brain, our nervous system, the brain connected to the spinal cord and the nerves and all that. We as Americans, United States of America, we have to walk as a system, not like we're doing right now. My prayer for everyone is that the new year will bring a lot of blessing and prosperity and progress for everyone. Doesn't matter what color or what gender you are. We're all Americans. So thank you so much for listening to me. Please look forward to my book. I've written children's book, but I really truly want to write a book on STEAM. And I feel this is just one inspiration that I can work on. Root for me, please. Thank you. Look forward to my book. Talk to you later. Bye-bye, everyone.